Bob, we looked at it as trying to build 3 freshman classes, and then the transfer rules changed dramatically really in the middle of last year. And so we were old. Our starting lineup last year was old. I mean, you had Dante, you had Jahmir, Jew, Jordan was older. Deshaun was the only freshman on that group. So we had a very good basis of an older group last year. But when you went to sub, very quickly I realized that we had 5 freshmen on the bench. And good players, but just in an era where the transfer portal pretty much dominates rosters, we came quickly to realize as a staff that it's good to have good young players. Like, I think I have the best young player in the country in Derek Queen. But when you look down the bench, you'd like to see some guys that have played college basketball before and been in different situations. And so when we went into the portal, the biggest thing that we wanted to do, even from guys that maybe might not start, were guys that had played a little bit, that from whether it's a practice standpoint, a travel standpoint, lose a couple games and still understand there's a lot of season left. That was probably the biggest thing that we wanted to, I wouldn't say fix, but just adjust in what we were trying to do and not be so freshman heavy every year. And that's kind of the way we've attacked this recruiting class, to be honest with you, too, is that 2 or 3 freshmen are probably going to be the limit to what we do every year with freshmen.
And obviously, no one's going to replace production in JY, but to get a point guard that's, you know, has that experience, how important is that with all the new faces to kind of get that group cohesive?
Yeah, I mean, I think the 2 biggest things were obviously Jahmir, for 2 years, was the heart and soul of this program. He gave everything to this program. He was on the court, off the court. He was just phenomenal. He was just here the other day. It was just, he just had so much heart that he loved this place so much that he gave it every day. You're not going to replace Jahmir, and that's not Ja'Kobi's job. The biggest thing for us was with Ja'Kobi getting someone that shot a high percentage from the three-point line was major, and a guy that had played at a pretty good level, and had been in was used to physicality, and that he actually played in a very physical league. But we told Ja'Kobi that we were going to try to find someone else, and that's where Selton kind of came in. Was I didn't want to have to be stuck with what Jahmir had to do last year, was unfortunately being the only guy that could create offense.
Hey, Kevin. George Gerbo, Washington Times. Playing off that a little bit, you said at a couple of points last season you placed too much expectation on freshmen to kind of carry the load. You've balanced the roster a little bit, but how do you still manage that with a guy like Derek, who enters with so much expectation already on his shoulders?
I think the biggest thing is that, you know, Derek's a top 10 player. If I was an NBA GM, I would draft him in a heartbeat. I think there's a huge difference in the fact that he's probably a once in a lifetime generational talent. I mean, he is as skilled a big man as I've ever seen on the court. I mean, his first scrimmage, he was phenomenal playing against someone else. So I think his expectations are totally different than what the freshman class we brought in last year was. And I thought Deshaun last year, although his numbers didn't prove it, played as good as any freshman in the conference for the amount of minutes he had to play. So trying not to put as much pressure on freshmen. Derek's going to be playing with 4 guys that are all juniors and 1 sophomore.
And this is your 3rd season now coaching Julian. Since you got here when he was a sophomore to now, what's the biggest maturation that you've seen, whether it's on court or just off the court?
I think it's Julian's leadership. I think he's really grown up. Ju's still young. He's only 21 years old. So unlike in today's world where guys do prep school, they've redshirted, they're 24 years. Ju's only 21. So he's still extremely young as far as college basketball. I think Ju's leadership, he's here every morning at 7:30 getting work in every day. He was in the gym every day this summer working on his shot and his free throw. I just think his work ethic and his leadership has really evolved as he's kind of grown and gone through the wars.
Kevin, Dave Preston, WTOP Radio here in Washington. You mentioned Deshaun Harris-Smith just a moment ago. What are you expecting from him? Where are you expecting him to make strides?
I think the biggest thing for Deshaun is if you look at the last 7 games of conference play last year and look what his numbers did, his turnovers, his overall play over those last 7 games, it's just him keep taking that big step. I think he's going to be the fact that he's going to have Ja'Kobi, Selton, Derek out there with him. You know, I think it's going to just let him relax a little bit. You know, he came in with a lot of big expectations last year. I thought he had a very good year, but he didn't shoot the basketball overly well, and that kind of weighed on him a little bit. He's kind of gotten away from putting the stress on his shooting and really focused more on just being the playmaker that we know he is. And I just think that is going to help him tremendously have such a better year.
And as far as non-conference play, it's been announced future series with Virginia and Georgetown. If you could address how important it is to have those local matchups sporadically in the non-conference.
Yeah, I mean, I think 2 things, just being here now, my 3rd year, understanding, the Georgetown series probably should have always been played. I think as long as Ed and I are here, it will always be played. So that was a no-brainer for me. The Virginia series, just trying to get we still have a very strong fan base that remembers all the ACC games. Tony, I respect their program. It's a bus ride, and in the new world of the Big Ten, as much as I love the new Big Ten, having games that, you know, if you go play at Georgetown, it's 20, 45 minutes. If you go play Charlottesville, it's 2 hours where it's on a bus. So having rivals that are close to us, I think is really important. And I think getting great home games with the 20 games that we play in the Big Ten is really important.
Hey, Coach, 247 Sports, Sam Jane. Was wondering about the transfer portals edition. You talked about, you know, adding more depth and more experience depth. How much of it was centered around kind of rectifying maybe what went wrong last year versus the players that were available just fitting what you guys needed?
So there's 2 big factors in the transfer portal: money and money. So last year, going into the season, we didn't have any money, so we couldn't really be overly aggressive in the transfer portal. And this year, thanks to Damon, I have a great group of guys that run the collective. We were able to be more aggressive in the portal because we had more money. So it's kind of a bad cop-out, and I apologize for the excuse. I don't like it, but the reality of the situation is that we had more money to be more aggressive early in the portal than we were before. And so we were able to be aggressive with Ja'Kobi. We were able to be aggressive with guys like Selton, that when we got them on campus for visits, that we just didn't mess around and we could be more aggressive.
Do you like, you know, obviously the money helps, but the lineup cohesion that those guys helped bring with the perimeter shooting, was that kind of a big emphasis?
Well, I mean, we weren't going to bring anyone that didn't shoot, that couldn't shoot the basketball. I mean, that was just with Derek, and having been able to watch Derek as much as I did in high school, understanding how good of a passer he is out of the post, understanding what Julian went through last year with the amount of he was double-teamed only behind Edie in college basketball. So understanding what he's going to bring, just to make those guys' life easier. And I think that was something that Ja'Kobi and Selton both really wanted to play with, was a guy that could get them inside-out threes, throw it in, and kick it back out.
Kevin, Barry Svrluga from the Washington Post. Hey, you've described incoming, outgoing, all this kind of transition. Is there a future in college basketball where you can have something that resembles stability in a lineup, in a program over a 3-year period, or is that just vanished?
I said this at Media Day, and it's a broken system right now. It really is. Anybody thinks is not in it every day and not dealing with it. I think the only way that this actually gets fixed is if it gets all blown up and we start over somehow, some way. I don't know if that's within the NCAA, without the NCAA. I don't know if that's, but I think for the best for the players, the best for the fans, best for coaches. You know, it's funny, we've had 7 NBA general managers come here and say, I don't know how you guys do this. We have guys on 6-year contracts, 5-year contracts. We know how to mix and match what to do. And he said, you're literally on a 6-month contract. So it is what it is. I think we've done a great job putting together a really good roster that I'm excited about. But I think my honest opinion, and I know, and I don't blame everybody. No one would listen. No one listens to me, but unless it gets blown up and totally reconstructed, it's going to be like this forever.
And it's a stylistic thing. You led the league in points allowed or average scoring against last year. Some of that might be good defense, but I get the feeling it's probably not the way you envision playing low possessions. Do you expect this group to be able to pick it up a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, we were first in the country or second in the country in making teams work for shots. I was really impressed how good we were defensively, considering how bad we were offensively. I think we were like the 12th worst offensive team in the country, maybe 11th. I don't want to cheat myself. And so to be that good defensively, considering the fact that we were in transition defense a lot because we missed a lot of shots, is something that we'd like to play faster. I've also learned this league a little bit. This league doesn't let you play overly fast. Anyone that's I've been a little bit shocked a little bit. Purdue's actually one of the faster teams, and they'll grind you out. I know Michigan State plays fast at home, but they really play slow on the road. So I think I've gotten used to this league a little bit. Our first year, we were really good pressing because we scored so much more. Last year, we struggled to get our tempo going because we just couldn't score. So when you want to press and you want to get into it, when you can't shoot and you can't score, even our free throw percentage was so bad last year. So I was proud of the way the guys played last year. To be in as many games as we were, being as bad as we were offensively, just showed you the heart and grit that they had. But I would gladly sacrifice 12 defensive spots in KenPom to be a 50 to 65. To be really good, you got to be somewhere 25 and 25. That's my goal every year, to be that. I'd much rather get to. I would sacrifice plenty of spots on the defensive spot to go up offensively. So yes.
Coach, Bruce Posner, Terp Talk. You are blessed to have two talents like Juju and Derek in the forecourt. What are some of the, what's the possibilities of how do you get them to unify and play together? Sometimes it's difficult when you have two really good big men.
No, the biggest issue we're having right now is just transition defense. Both of them are elite rebounders, like to play physical inside. They play off each other really, really well. We had like 4 or 5 really nice high lows the other day in our scrimmage with those two. We had some good duck-ins. We had some really good pick-and-roll offense. We didn't convert on some of them, but the biggest issue we're having playing both of them is the fact that neither one of them are used to sprinting back and playing a 4-man. Derek's not used to it, and obviously Julian's not used to it for the last 3 years. He hasn't done it. So that's probably our biggest hurdle. Derek's been great in the press. Ju knows the press. They've been good in the zone. Derek, Ju, Selton on the back line is a huge back line in the zone, so they've been great. So they worked really well together. The biggest issue we're having is I have to figure out a way to get them to understand transition defense, because when they're not in together, they both go back to being 5-men and having a totally different responsibility in transition defense than what they do with the 4-man. The 4-man has a totally, especially in our system, they're really responsible for a lot in the defense. So that's our biggest issue that we're having with them right now. But it's a good issue because I know we can fix it, because, someone had to put a 4-man on Derek. Someone's got to put a 4-man on Juju, and I just wouldn't want to be that 4-man in that situation.
You were talking about the growth of Julian.
I'm sorry.
You were
yes.
talking about the growth of Julian. In the second half of his career here, he's added like 20 pounds, roughly. Can you talk about what that's done for him on the court with his game?
Yeah, I think it was really the second half of his sophomore year where I think he realized he went up against Edie, the young man from Wisconsin, and I think the kid from Illinois, and was back to back to back. And he played phenomenal, but he got beat up. And I think he realized, and it was more from the offense, because he bangs on the offensive end so much. I think he realized right there that he needed to really concentrate on his body to help him sustain how he wants to play. And if you look at the minutes that he had to play last year, again, he had to play probably 6 minutes too much last year. If you look at his last 8 minutes scoring and shooting, it really went down just because how could you blame him? He's playing Zach Edey and he's playing 36 minutes a game. It just wasn't fair to him. I think he realized this summer he's gotten himself in really good shape. But I think he realized that he had to build that muscle to be able to sustain the way he wanted to play on the offensive end.
Where do you think he stacks up against all the other big men in the country?
I don't know who's left as big men in the country. I don't even know who's in the league. I don't know what big guys are left yet in this league, but I know that I would take him over any big guy in the country. So I think he stacks up first.
Hey, Kevin. Sam Cohn with the Baltimore Sun. You've spoken glowingly of Derek Queen, probably rightfully so. There's a lot of innate pressure that comes with him coming in as a 5-star and one of the best freshman big men in the country. I'm curious for you as a coach, how do you coach that? How do you handle that? What kinds of conversations do you have with him about approaching that kind of pressure and staying calm through it?
It's Derek's best quality is that every day he walks through that door, he's got the best energy, especially for a big guy. He comes in here, he's ready to play. He's ready. Derek understands who he is and what the ability he has. I have no pressure because we're just going to run a little pick and roll with him and give him the basketball. I mean, he is as talented a big man as I've seen in a long, long time. And there's no pressure on him because if he doesn't make it this year, he's going to make it next year. If he makes it this year, great. He's going to make it. Like that's not even a question. So he's just so much fun to coach, and he's so much fun. He makes everyone else better on the court. I don't look at it as pressure. I look at it as a great opportunity to have someone that's so special on the court with you that you can do so many things.
You've said one of one, once in a generation. Can you try to compare him to someone if you had to pick? Stylistically?
No, you know what? I can't because, like, you watch him play, and he looks like he's playing like you're watching a 1960s slow motion NBA basketball player. And when I say that, people are like, oh, but then he goes out and gets 24 and 12 in 20 minutes. Like, I don't want to say Luka or anybody like that because that's putting expectations that are crazy. He has an unbelievable feel for the game of basketball. He plays it at a speed that you'd want your point guard to play it at. He just sees everything. He doesn't get rushed up. He plays at his own pace. And especially in the college game where the floor is not good for big guys. He's already figured out angles. He just plays at his own pace. And it's when you watch it, sometimes you think it's like he's not playing hard. He's not going. He's just got it all figured out. And there's really no player that I've seen that he reminds me of, just because he's a old school player with understanding the new way that the NBA and college plays with the 5-out spacing and that kind of stuff. He's a unique player.
Kevin, back here, Craig Heist, 106.7 The Fan. During your coaching career, how long, on average, does it really take for a team to find its identity? In other words, you know what you're going to get. And how does that play into the conference this year with all the new teams that are added?
It's actually a really good question. I think some years you kind of know who you are right away. And I think other years you get really excited because you're going to be able to build upon it and understand it. Usually the more it's different now just because you used to have 7 classes that have come through your program that have passed on all the tricks and the trades of how we play, and then you could take that team and all of a sudden you could start to tweak it and get better. I think now you try to build an identity really quick of how you want to play, and then I think you have to adjust depending on what happens in the real games. But I think this team, we're a work in progress right now, which I like. You know, I'm not sure what we are. I like this group, but I'm not sure if we're going to be a great defensive team or we're just going to be a team that runs up and down and jacks it up, because we do have some guys that like to play fast. And so we're definitely a work in progress right now. I don't know what we are. Do we really?
Kevin, Harrison Rich, the Diamondback over here. You guys identified Ja'Kobi, or it seemed like you identified him pretty early in the portal process as a top target. What was it about his game that was so intriguing to you guys, and how do you think he'll handle the step up in competition?
So yeah, we had 4 guys that we thought, obviously there's just no way you can replace Jahmir. I'll say it all season. I thought the biggest thing was his numbers off catch and shoot were really, really high. His numbers off dribble handoffs were really, really high. And understanding that he was probably going to get a lot of catch and shoot threes coming from the ball out of the post out was really important for us. So having a guy that had better numbers of catch and shoot than he did off the dribble were really important to us. Defensively, he's really, really good defensively, which was something that we couldn't ask Jahmir to be the type of defender that he could have been just because of the amount of usage Jahmir had. So I think defending that spot was going to be really important for us too. And then also we do a lot of dribble handoffs. So him coming off dribble handoffs, he's really good in dribble handoffs. You have Derek, you have Jew. You know, he's going to get a lot of those. So we had 4 guys that fit that category. And then, like I said, it becomes a money thing and an opportunity thing. So it's a little bit more complicated than just saying that, you know, we target them right away. It's a little bit more in depth than that, and then it becomes money.
Kevin, how is Rodney Rice shaking off the rust a little bit, and how exactly does he fit into?
Yeah, Rodney's been great. Rodney sprained his ankle early June, had a bad ankle sprain. He missed most of June, a little bit early July. Rodney's now starting to show the boost and the scoring ability that we all kind of saw him in high school and a little bit at Virginia Tech. Rodney's really come along nice. It's I think everyone just needs it, and Rodney's I think he's starting to understand it too. Is like everyone just has to be patient and let him kind of get back into the competition. He worked out. It's funny, you know, he worked out all for that whole year, and then also now he's got to compete for minutes and stuff like that. To get those juices back takes a little time, but I'm excited about Rodney.
Kevin, Eli Cohen with the Diamondback. 13 out of your last 15 teams were led in scoring by a guard. I know you obviously added to both the backcourt and the front court this offseason, but do you see this team potentially being one that plays through the front court more than teams in the past that you've coached?
What's that in all college basketball, or is that just a me thing?
Probably a little bit of both.
A little bit of both, right? No, I think I'd like to be to be perfect. I'd like to be much more balanced in the scoring. I don't want to have just one guy be the guy that we depend on scoring. And I do think I see this team with the ability of some guys that can get hot. I don't see one guy just dominating the scoring like we've had the last couple of years.
Hey, Coach. Colin Maxbart, Testudo Times. You mentioned kind of the difficulties adjusting to Queen and Reese both playing in transition defense. Can you talk a little bit more specifically about why that's challenging for them?
Yeah, they're like 6'11", 250, and so they're chasing a guy that's 6'4", 190, running to the corner to shoot a 3 when they're used to running back and just clogging up the lane. It's just something that neither one of them have ever done in their career. So I'm asking one of them, and it's really Derek probably, because Jew's ingrained now 3 years of playing the defense that we play, asking Derek to do something totally different that he's never done. The good thing about Derek is he's a very, very smart young man. He's a quick learner. It's just the times where he's out there as a 5 and now all of a sudden we transition him to a 4. There's going to be some breakdowns in that, but I'm going to be happy. There's going to be breakdowns that's going to happen, but there's so much more positives of having both of them on the floor at the same time. You have to guard one of them with the same guy that he has to guard. Thank you, everybody.